Welcome to my home. I'm very happy to introduce to you this book that I wrote, The Foods of Jose Rizal. To Filipinos, Rizal is a very important person. Even if he lived from 1861 to 1896, his life is still an inspiration for all of us. Rizal believed in social justice, in good governance, in political representation, and most importantly, that genius has no country. When you become a person like Rizal, you become a superhero in the eyes of everyone. It's very hard for the ordinary person to relate to being a superhero. So instead, what I have done today is I've prepared 5 foods listed in this book, stories about them in this book, and that is one way that I can introduce to you the magnificent life of Jose Rizal, Philippine National Hero. Let's begin with the foods of Rizal as a child. Rizal never wrote or told anybody what his favorite food was, but the closest answer we've gotten was from this lady over here, Aling Vale, the family cook. In 1950, she was interviewed and she said she would cook adobo, estofado, puchero, menudo, fried chicken for the children, pancit also. But the favorite food of little boy Rizal was carne asada, roast beef. The second dish that we have for you today is from Rizal's life in Ateneo, a teenager. He was 11 years old when he was enrolled, and one of the most common foods that was served in Ateneo from the time of Rizal and all the way into World War II was something they called albondigas. In English, that means meatballs. Children used to joke that what went into the bola-bola, or the albondigas, was the food that was left over from the day before and that was about to turn rancid. Some of the even naughtier children used to say, "No, what's in there are the dead animals that they would pick up in Intramuros and chop up and serve it as lunch for us." But now we know better. In 1957, the gentleman gourmet from Pampanga, Mariano Henson, gave us the recipe that uses ground beef. And the bola-bolas were served with either chickpeas or white beans. White beans is in pork and beans minus the pork. Now let me share with you some foods from Rizal's stay in Europe. He was on such a tight budget that he was buying a can of biscuits, counting how many biscuits were in there, and rationing himself daily. He was down to tea and biscuits for dinner and becoming very thin to the point he thought he had tuberculosis. Actually, what he had was the effect of malnutrition. For any student on a budget, therefore, the best thing was to be invited to dinner. And one of the dishes that made every Filipino student feel at home was pancit. This particular recipe was inspired by that of the Carlo de Taveras, who often invited Rizal. As a foreign student and an exile in Europe, Rizal got very homesick during Christmas. Christmas was something he loved very much. One time he translated into Tagalog a few of the stories of Hans Christian Andersen, and he sent them to his nephews and nieces in Calamba. That started him thinking about all the wonderful times he had at home, and he wrote his father and he said, "I really miss the salabat and I miss the puto bongo." In other words, the comfort foods really mattered so much to Rizal. At some point, Rizal felt he could no longer stay in Europe. He had to make it back to the Philippines, where the action was, where his political activism would really be important. But unfortunately, he was exiled for 4 years the moment he arrived. And then his friends said, you know, you are wasting away intellectually. And he knew that. So he volunteered to be a medic for the Spanish in the Cuban Revolution. He knew and his friends knew that perhaps it was one way where he could learn how the Cubans were handling their revolution. Maybe Filipinos could do the same. He missed the boat to Spain by 1 day, had to stay on a naval ship for 1 month, incommunicado. But he asked his family, can you please send me enough mangoes and enough canned pâté de foie gras to last me 1 month of my voyage from here to Spain. Well, he never got to Cuba. The moment he got to Spain, he was sent right back to the Philippines, tried by a military court, and found guilty as a traitor. This should have been his last meal, 3 eggs. Instead, the satirical author in him came out. He put the 3 eggs in the dish and fed it to the mice. And he said, mice, may you have your fiesta too when I die. Rizal's death inflamed the Philippine Revolution. There was no stopping it. But as you can see, Rizal was an ordinary person like each one of us. He was a little boy who liked roast beef. He was a teenager who had to eat dormitory food. He was a Filipino overseas who longed for comfort food like pancit and puto bongbong and salabat during Christmas. I hope that by reading the foods of Rizal, you will find the Rizal in you. His life has inspired me and has made me look for ways that maybe, little ways, where maybe we can inspire the nobleness and excellence that Rizal's life and death have stood for.